Picture this: designing an aircraft so advanced, so carefully crafted, that it's packed with components straight out of elite Western jets. Think engines from General Electric and Safran, avionics by Honeywell, radar systems from Rockwell Collins. This plane, on paper, checks every major box. It's technically ready to fly globally. And yet, it's not. Meet China's C919, a jet built to go head-to-head with Airbus and Boeing. But despite its high-tech build, it's still grounded. Think engines from General Electric and Safran, avionics by Honeywell, radar systems from Rockwell Collins. This plane, on paper, checks every major box. It's technically ready to fly globally, and yet it's not. Meet China's C919, a jet built to go head-to-head with Airbus and Boeing. But despite its high-tech build, it's still grounded. Even though it uses internationally approved systems and has been developed with years of planning to meet global aviation standards, the C919 just hit a major snag. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency, or EASA, has postponed its type certification. This crucial approval is what allows international flights. Originally expected years ago, the green light could now be delayed for another 3 to 6 years. This wasn't just a minor bureaucratic delay. It made international headlines. Some media even mocked the plane's chances. But beneath the jokes lies a bigger, more serious question: who actually controls access to the skies? Because this isn't just about engines or electronics, it's about influence. It's about who decides which aircraft get to compete globally, and how Airbus and Boeing have long dominated that space. So here's the real question: why is a jet filled with certified Western tech being held back? And what does this say about the future of aviation? This story isn't just about one airplane. It's a window into a larger geopolitical power shift that could redefine who leads the skies. From day one, China saw this challenge coming. It understood that building a plane wasn't enough. If the C919 didn't pass global safety tests, it couldn't rival Airbus or Boeing. So instead of starting from scratch, China followed the global playbook. It built the C919 using tried and tested components already used in Western planes, the LEAP-1C engines from GE and Safran, the same ones powering Airbus A320neos and already approved by the FAA and EASA. The avionics, Honeywell, radar, Rockwell Collins, fuel systems, Parker-Hannifin, even the tires are Michelin. It's a machine built almost entirely from globally trusted parts already flying across the skies of Europe. And the US-China even signed a bilateral aviation safety agreement with the EU back in 2019 to make mutual certification legally possible. Technically and diplomatically, every box was checked, and yet EASA now says full approval might still be years away. For decades, commercial aviation has been a two-horse race. Airbus and Boeing control nearly the entire market. Most of us have flown on jets built by one of these two. That's exactly why the C919 feels like such a disruption. This isn't a regional side project. It was designed to directly challenge the Airbus A320 and Boeing 737, two of the most widely used aircraft on the planet. If the C919 gets even a small foothold, it threatens a massive, decades-old duopoly. That's why this delay has raised eyebrows. Officially, EASA says it's all about safety checks and technical tests. But dig deeper, and it starts to look like something more. A pause meant to protect market control. Because once certified, the C919 isn't just a new jet, it's a new competitor, a real alternative that could be cheaper and just as capable. Airlines, especially in developing regions, would finally have a third option. That alone could force Airbus and Boeing to cut prices, offer better terms, and rethink their dominance. Think of it this way: imagine two chefs running the world's top restaurants. Then a third chef arrives using the same recipes, the same ingredients, same food safety standards. But the inspector says you'll need 5 more years before you can serve. At some point, it's no longer about food safety. It's about keeping the new guy out. The C919 is more than a plane. It's a direct challenge to the aviation world order. Its delay isn't just about technical paperwork. It's about control, independence, and whether global systems still act as neutral referees or as tools of influence. If China played by every rule and still can't get its jet approved, what does that signal to other nations trying to enter high-tech industries? What happens when geopolitics starts calling the shots on innovation? Every year, the C919 stays grounded. Boeing and Airbus get more breathing room. But while the West debates and delays, China isn't sitting idle. Even without Europe's certification, the C919 is already gaining momentum. Critics might laugh and say it has no customers. But the truth is, China is playing a much longer game. It's already the world's second-largest aviation market. And according to the International Air Transport Association, it's set to become #1 by 2042. Over the next 20 years, China will need more than 9,000 new aircraft. That's nearly 1/4 of all global demand. Even if the C919 never lands in Paris or New York, it doesn't have to. China's domestic market alone is massive enough to keep its production lines running at full speed for decades. And the jet is already approved by the Civil Aviation Administration of China, meaning COMAC, the state-owned manufacturer, can fly it nationwide without any limitations. China Eastern Airlines has already begun taking deliveries and operating commercial flights with the C919. Each successful flight builds public trust and strengthens its record of safe operation. And interest isn't confined to China. Countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam, rapidly expanding aviation markets, are giving the C919 serious consideration. Some are even in talks with China to establish bilateral certification agreements, which could let them bypass Western regulators entirely. This could lead to a new regional aviation ecosystem built around China, one where Western regulatory influence starts to fade. While critics may scoff, China's aviation strategy is quietly gaining altitude. The C919 might be blocked from a few international runways, but it's free to fly across thousands more, and that alone is enough to shift the global aviation balance. Now here's the twist. While Europe drags its feet on certifying China's aircraft, its own aviation giant, Airbus, is leaning more and more on China to maintain its lead. Since 2019, Airbus has pulled ahead of Boeing in global deliveries, thanks in large part to the Chinese market. Today, over 2,200 Airbus planes are flying across China, making up more than half the country's commercial fleet. That makes China Airbus's biggest single market. And it goes beyond just selling planes. Airbus operates 6 joint ventures in China, covering everything from parts production to full aircraft assembly. Its plant in Tianjin can produce up to 6 jets a month, a key piece of its global manufacturing puzzle. Which raises a major question. Can Europe afford to delay the C919's approval indefinitely without risking backlash? Beijing doesn't have to make threats. It can simply place more orders for COMAC jets, or quietly slow down Airbus purchases. Just by adjusting its procurement strategy, China could tilt the scales toward its own aircraft. This wouldn't be a political statement. It would just be market logic. Europe might be blocking China's jet from heading west, but China could stall Airbus's future growth in the east. It's a fragile balance, and it won't last forever. If this scenario feels familiar, that's because it is. China has faced similar pushback before. Back in 2014, China and the European Space Agency agreed to collaborate on space missions, astronaut training, and even future space station projects. European astronauts trained in China, but by 2023, ESA quietly stepped back, under pressure from Western governments. Earlier in the 2000s, China joined Europe's Galileo satellite program. Initially welcomed, it was soon edged out after U.S. lobbying efforts limited access. China responded by building its own system, Beidou, which is now fully operational in over 100 countries. There's a clear trend. When China gets close to leveling the playing field, cooperation often gives way to exclusion. And now, with the C919, we might be watching that same script unfold again. So how is China likely to respond this time? First, it's working to eliminate its dependence on foreign engines. The C919 currently runs on LEAP-1C engines from GE and Safran. But COMAC is already developing an alternative with the Aero Engine Corporation of China, the CJ1000A. Once it's in service, China won't need outside propulsion systems or Western certification. Second, it will leverage its own market power. Instead of engaging in trade disputes, China can simply shift more aircraft purchases toward the C919 and away from Airbus. Market access will become a tool for ensuring fair treatment. Third, it will expand aviation partnerships beyond the West. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, China has signed aviation deals with dozens of countries. Some of these partners are already recognizing Chinese certifications, bypassing EASA and the FAA entirely. This could eventually lead to a split in global aviation, one system led by the West and another growing around China and its allies. Finally, China will play the long game. it will continue improving the C919, boosting safety, cutting costs, and building a proven track record. The goal isn't just certification, it's credibility. Just like Huawei adapted to chip bans and Beidou replaced foreign satellites, the C919 could win not through confrontation, but through persistence. In the short term, the delay has slowed China's new jet, but in the long run, it might just speed up its path to aerospace independence. Because the C919 is no longer just a plane, it's a clear signal that China is done waiting for approval. It's building its own path forward. If you found this breakdown insightful, give the video a like, hit subscribe, and tap the bell for more deep dives into the global shifts reshaping our world. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and stay tuned.